Hey everyone, welcome back to Retro Reel Recaps. Today we're talking about the movie The Cold Light of Day. It's a story of a young man whose simple family vacation turns into a fight for survival when his family is kidnapped, with a deadly conspiracy closing in. Desperate, he must unlock his father's secrets to save his family in a world where no one can be trusted. The story starts with a young man named Will Shaw. He flies from the USA to Spain to join his family for a vacation. Will owns a small business back home. At the airport immigration, he is told his luggage is still in San Francisco. He calls a friend and asks him to collect the luggage. Will says he will return to the US soon and does not plan to stay in Spain for long. As Will exits the airport, a man calls his name. It is his father, Martin Shaw. Martin welcomes him warmly. Will greets his dad and says he thought his brother Josh would pick him up. Martin tells him Josh is sleeping on their yacht. Martin hugs Will and says it is good to see him after so long. Then they begin their trip to the yacht. On the way, Will asks how his father's work posting in Spain is going. Martin says it is good. Will's phone rings with a call from his office. He tells the caller he is on a break, knowing these calls annoy his dad. Will tells Martin it is a bad time to be away from his business, because he is very busy. But Martin says Will's mother will be very happy to see him. They arrive at the yacht, and Will's mother Lori greets him. She is very happy to see her son. Lori asks Will about his luggage, and he explains it is still in San Francisco. She tells him to wear the clothes he left behind from his last visit. Lori then goes into the yacht's kitchen, saying she is making a special dinner for that night. Will then meets his younger brother, Josh. The two brothers share a warm hug. Josh introduces Will to his girlfriend, Dara. As they are talking, Martin walks past them. Will and Josh immediately become quiet and serious. It is clear Martin is a strict father, and the sons are not very comfortable with him. Dara says that Martin is a sweet man. Josh jokes that Dara thinks this because she grew up in a Soviet orphanage, and they all laugh. The whole family is very happy because they are all together for a special dinner. As they sit at the table, the two brothers talk about their childhood. They moved often because of their father's job as a US government worker. Will says sarcastically that they lived in 12 different countries in 18 years because of their dad. Lori brings the food to the table. She is very glad to have her whole family together, and she tells everyone this. The mood gets happier when Josh tells a funny story about Will from a fishing trip, and everyone laughs. But this happy moment ends when Will's phone rings. Will answers the call and leaves the table, which makes Martin unhappy. Will seems very upset after the call. When Will comes back to the table, Josh and Martin try to lighten the mood by telling the funny fishing story again. But Will becomes serious and says he was only 10 years old when he accidentally hurt his own leg with a fishing hook. Will looks very serious and tells his mother he cannot stay for the whole week. He explains to his family that his company is going bankrupt. This sad news makes everyone quiet. Will then leaves the table. Martin tries to stop him, but Will excuses himself and walks away, spoiling the happy family mood. Will goes and sits alone by the docks, thinking about what will happen next. Later, Will tries to fix the situation. He goes to where his father Martin is sitting alone on the yacht. Will apologizes for ruining the family reunion. He says he will stay for one day. Will explains the difficult position he is in with his business. Martin also says he is sorry, showing he understands his son's struggles. To change the subject, Martin tells Will that the wind will be good for sailing tomorrow. The next day, the whole family is sailing on the sea. Will is constantly on his ringing phone. He helps with the sails but does not seem to want to. Martin keeps giving Will orders, which annoys Will and creates a tense atmosphere. After some time, Martin tells Josh to drop the anchor. Will is still on his phone. Martin urgently tells Will to take control of the yacht and keep it pointed into the wind. Martin then climbs up to adjust the sails. Suddenly, a fast motorboat comes very close to their yacht. Will is still on his phone and does not see the danger. Because he is not paying attention, the yacht drifts in the wind. Martin sees this and shouts at Will. Will notices the sails are spinning out of control. He quickly jumps and pushes Dara out of the way to save her, but Dara hits her head and gets hurt. Everyone gathers around Dara. Martin climbs down, very angry. He yells at Will. In the middle of this, Will's phone rings again. Martin is extremely annoyed. Before anyone can react, he throws Will's phone into the sea. Will shouts that his career was on that phone, but Martin tells him to be quiet. They start to argue, and Josh steps in to stop it from getting worse. Dara says she is okay. Martin walks away to the other side of the yacht, leaving Will very upset. Will tells his mother he is going to the shore and asks if she needs anything. Lori asks him to bring antiseptic for Dara's wound and to come back quickly. Will wraps his clothes in a plastic bag, jumps into the water and swims to town. He is trying to calm down. He stops at a pharmacy to buy the antiseptic, and then decides to get a drink. Meanwhile, back at the yacht, some speedboats come very close. Martin becomes suspicious, but he does not say anything to Lori, Josh, or Dara. After calming down, Will returns to the beach. He cannot see the family yacht anywhere. He asks some local people on the beach if they have seen the yacht, but they do not know anything. Will swims out and asks a group of young people for help, but they cannot help him either. Will is confused and worried about where his family could be. He decides to walk along the coast to get a better view. After walking a long way, he finally sees the yacht drifting alone. He cannot see anyone on board, which frightens him. Will quickly swims to the yacht. When he gets on board, he gets a big shock. Everything inside is a mess, as if someone has broken in. His family is gone. Feeling desperate, Will runs to the local police station for help. Inside, he finds police officers playing cards. They do not pay much attention to him, which makes him more frustrated. Will hits a table, which makes the officers angry. Just then, the police inspector arrives. Will tells the inspector his problem. The inspector hears Will's name and makes a phone call. The inspector now seems very concerned, and tells Will to take them to the stranded yacht. The police officers will travel to the place where the yacht was last seen. A stranger is already waiting there. The stranger calls Will by his name, which surprises Will. Will asks how the man knows his name. The stranger says that Will's mother told him. He then tells Will to come with him to see his family, but Will sees a gun on the stranger. He also notices a motorboat next to the yacht. Will becomes suspicious and tries to run away. The officers try to stop him, but Will breaks free. He gets into a police car and drives away quickly into the night, with the police chasing him. The police chase Will until they force him to crash the stolen car. They catch him and start to beat him badly. Just when it seems hopeless, Will's father, Martin, appears suddenly. Martin fights very well, and quickly defeats the police officers, saving his son. Martin helps Will stand up and then puts him in a car. Will is badly hurt. As they drive away, Will wakes up and asks Martin where Josh and his mother are. Martin says he is not sure, which surprises Will. Martin explains that some armed men came onto the yacht. They held Martin at gunpoint and took Lori, Josh and Dara. Will is shocked and asks what is going on. Martin then tells him a big secret. He says he is not a normal worker at the US Embassy. He is actually an undercover CIA agent. Will cannot believe what he is hearing. Martin explains that something from his past has come back to trouble them and put his family in danger. He says he is sorry to Will, promising to get their family back. Martin then gets a call from another CIA agent named Carrick. Martin tells her he needs to meet right away. Before the meeting, Martin drives to one of his secret safe houses. He gets his gun and some medicine. Then Martin and Will leave to meet Carrick. Martin tells Will to drive. They do not know that a silent sniper, another CIA agent named Gorman, is already waiting at the meeting place. Will and Martin arrive. Will asks his dad if his mother knew he was CIA. Martin says she knew everything. Will is upset that Martin never told him, but Martin says he kept it secret to protect Will and Josh. Just then, Carrick arrives at the back of the car. Before getting out, Martin tells Will he is a wonderful son, and that he is proud of him. Martin tells Will to stay in the car. Will watches nervously in the mirror as Martin walks to Carrick. Martin is suspicious and asks if Carrick has set him up. Carrick says she has not done anything wrong. Martin tells her that the men they took a briefcase from have kidnapped his family. They will hurt his family if he does not return the briefcase in 24 hours. Carrick says the briefcase was sent to the CIA head office and is not with her anymore. Martin is still suspicious. Carrick promises to help him and then she leaves, but Martin is now only worried about his family and does not trust Carrick anymore. Martin walks back to the car. Just as he is about to get in, the sniper Gorman shoots him. The shot is fatal, and Martin dies right there. Will, full of shock, crawls over to his dead father, crying. Gorman comes to the spot and sees another opportunity. He points his gun at Will, but Will quickly grabs Martin's gun and his ringing cell phone. Driven by pure desperation, Will runs away before Gorman and his men can catch him. As Will runs away, his father's cell phone keeps ringing. He finally answers it. Will desperately tells the caller that Martin is dead and that he is being chased and shot at. The man on the phone says he has Will's family. Before Will can say more, Gorman and his men get closer, so Will has to run again. He runs into a police officer. The officer sees Will has a gun and points his own weapon at him, ready to make an arrest. But Gorman, who is chasing Will, quickly shoots the policeman. Will shoots back at Gorman, but then more police arrive. Will runs away again. He sprints until he reaches a tall fence. Using his last bit of strength, he climbs over it and finds safety in a park. Will tries to hide, but a police officer on a horse sees him and chases him. Will manages to just barely escape. He finds a public restroom to hide in. He washes his shirt and tries to catch his breath, trying to understand everything that happened. After he calms down, Will goes out into a busy market street. He steals a cap, sunglasses, and a shirt to change how he looks. Then he hides Martin's gun in a trash bin. Will cleverly gets himself arrested at the US Embassy on purpose. Inside, he tells an official about his father's death and that his family is in danger. The official does not believe him and tells him to get a lawyer. While they are talking, the official's phone rings, and the conversation seems to be about Will. Feeling discouraged, Will leaves the embassy. Outside, he sees Carrick waiting in her car. She says she was a friend of Martin's and seems to know a lot about Will. Will is unsure, but he finally agrees to go with her because she promises to help save his family. He reluctantly gets into her car. As the car moves, Carrick starts asking questions about Martin and the mysterious briefcase. Will starts to think Carrick might not be a friend. He pretends to feel sick and nauseous. Carrick tells the driver to stop the car so Will can get out. Will gets out and pretends to be sick, but then he uses the chance to run away. He disappears into the crowded streets. Carrick stops her men from chasing him. Will quickly gets the gun he hid in the trash bin. Then he runs as fast as he can. After running a good distance, he gets on a bus. The bus driver tells him to get off because he has no money for the fare. But a kind girl pays for him. Will thanks her and gets on the bus to get far away. He sits on the bus holding his father's phone, trying to think. He looks at the call log and sees many calls from a person named Diego Caldera. Just then the phone rings. It is from an unknown number. Will hears his mother's voice. She desperately asks to speak to Martin. Will painfully tells her that his father is dead. Lori starts to cry when she hears this. The man on the phone does not care about their sadness. He still wants the mysterious briefcase. He tells Will to tell Tom to bring the briefcase. Will says he does not know any Tom and that his father's name was Martin. Will begs the man to let his family go, but the man says Will must bring the briefcase to Puerta del Sol by 6 o'clock that evening. He warns Will that if he does not get the briefcase, Will's family will die. The man then hangs up, leaving Will devastated. Will now has to think quickly to save his family. Will decides to call the number for Diego Caldera. A girl named Lucia answers the phone. Will says he is Martin's son. Surprisingly, Lucia does not ask any questions and just gives him an address to meet. She tells Will that Diego is her uncle. Will arranges to meet Lucia at Diego's office. When he gets to the address, he takes out his gun before going inside. In the office, Lucia seems nervous and scared. She asks Will how she can help him. Will turns off the music on a laptop and Lucia quickly stands up. She was hiding a knife in her hand. Just then, one of Carrick's agents arrives. He asks Will if he is feeling better now. Lucia attacks the man with her knife, but the man quickly takes the knife away and pushes her. This gives Will a chance to join the fight. Will jumps on the man. In the chaotic fight, the man is stabbed in the back but keeps fighting. An intense fight happens between Will and the man. Lucia screams loudly. The attacker finally loses strength from the stabbing and can no longer fight. Lucia then points her gun at Will, yelling in Spanish. She thinks Will is there to kill Diego, but Will quickly puts his gun down and explains the situation. He asks Lucia to help him find Diego. Lucia is unsure, but Will convinces her they need to find Diego quickly to warn him that Carrick's people are trying to kill him. Lucia finally agrees. She takes Will to Diego's apartment on her scooter. When they arrive, they see the door is open. Will takes out his gun and goes inside. They find Diego's dead body on the floor. Will puts his hand over Lucia's mouth to stop her from screaming in panic. Will can hear people talking in the kitchen. They are the ones who broke into the apartment. Will quietly goes to the kitchen with his gun. He is shocked to see Carrick and Gorman there. Full of anger, Will goes into the kitchen and points his gun at them. But Carrick and Gorman are calm because they were expecting him. Carrick sits down and calmly explains that Martin betrayed his country and his team. She says Martin was going to give the mysterious briefcase back to their enemies, which is why he was killed. Will does not believe his father was a traitor. Carrick tells Will that his family is held by terrorists. She says she can only help him if he tells her everything he knows. Before Will can respond, Lucia, angry about her uncle's death, runs into the room. She starts shooting at Carrick and Gorman. But Lucia is not a good shooter and does not hit anyone. Carrick and Gorman are not hurt, and they shoot back at Will and Lucia. Will and Lucia run to escape the gunfire with Carrick and Gorman chasing them. They end up on the rooftop with no way down. Will makes a plan. He ties a rope around Lucia and lowers her down. But Gorman shoots Will in the back. Lucia manages to get down to one of the floors where a stranger helps her. Will holds the rope in pain, barely avoiding Gorman's bullets. He eventually climbs down the same rope but falls to the ground. Will is now shot and badly hurt. Lucia gets on her bike. Will gets on the bike with her and they escape. Will's condition is getting worse, but they cannot stop. Carrick gets in her car and follows them. She causes Lucia's bike to crash. Just as Carrick is about to shoot, a group of people gather around to help Will. This blocks Carrick's view, giving Lucia and Will another chance to get away. Lucia is also hurt, but she manages to carry Will to get medical help. Will keeps saying not to take him to a hospital. Lucia tells him she is taking him to a friend's place. She takes Will to a nightclub and asks a friend with medical skills for help. At first her friend does not want to help, but Lucia convinces her. They check Will's wound and see the bullet only grazed his back. To stop the bleeding, they use a hot spoon to cauterize the wound. It is very painful for Will and he screams before passing out. Lucia looks at Will's phone to learn more about him. After some time, Will wakes up, still feeling a lot of pain. Lucia finds a picture of Martin in the phone. She anxiously asks Will why he has photos of a man named Tom Keaton. Lucia is shocked when Will says that it is his father, Martin Shaw, and that he is dead. Seeing how sad Lucia is, Will asks how she knew his father. Lucia says she knew Martin her whole life, and he was her only friend. Will looks at the clock and sees the time. It says 16:15. He panics and tells Lucia he must go to Puerto del Sol to find his family. Lucia takes Will to a subway station. As they wait for the train, Lucia seems anxious and asks Will many questions. Will gets irritated and asks why she is so interested in Martin. He asks if she was Martin's lover. Lucia gets very upset at this. Frustrated, she tells Will a shocking secret. She says Martin used the name Tom in Spain, and that he was her father too. Will is shocked to learn that Lucia is his half-sister. He also feels guilty for what he just said to her. They both get on a train to go to Puerto del Sol, where Will's family is being held. Will says he is sorry to Lucia. Lucia then tells him that Tom was hardly ever around in Spain. She also says she knew about her father's other family and that her own mother died many years ago. Will tries to understand that his father had a secret life. At the same time, he subconsciously accepts Lucia as his sister, and he feels like a protective brother. Will decides to go alone to find his family, and Lucia understands. She tells him she will wait at the nightclub and wishes him good luck. Deep down, she has also started to feel like a sister to her half-brother. Will sets off on his own. Will arrives at the location and looks around carefully for the contact. A mysterious man suddenly appears next to him. The man tells Will to act normal and follow him. Will is cautious but does what he is told. He follows the man to a car and sits in the front seat. He is anxious and keeps asking questions about his family. But the man sitting in the back seat quickly grabs Will's neck and chokes him until he passes out. When Will wakes up, he is tied to a chair and is being punched. Will desperately tries to convince the man that Martin is dead. Their leader, named Zahir, watches Will and soon believes that Will is telling the truth. Zahir reveals that he is from the Secret Service. He says the mysterious briefcase was part of a plan to expose a corrupt CIA agent. Just as they were about to expose the agent, Martin showed up and took the briefcase. Will tells Zahir that Martin was killed by the corrupt agent Carrick. Will explains that Carrick and Gorman are now trying to erase all evidence and witnesses to their secret plans. Somehow Zahir believes Will. Zahir tells his men to untie Will. Zahir then takes Will to see his family. Zahir says that if Will is telling the truth, the only way to protect his family is to keep them as hostages for now. Zahir tells Will he will use him as bait. But he will also provide security for Will. He says Carrick will try to hunt Will down because the people who want to buy the briefcase are in town, and their deal with Carrick and Gorman is about to happen. Zahir insists that Will must lure Carrick out into the open before the briefcase is sold. Otherwise, Zahir will let Will's family go, and they will be tracked and hunted by Carrick's people. Once again, the man from behind grabs Will's neck and chokes him. They did not want Will to know where their safe house was located. After some time, Will is thrown out of the car with a gun just outside the city. Will quickly goes back to the nightclub where Lucia is waiting. Lucia is very happy to see her brother again and gives him a warm hug. They both then make a plan to force Carrick to come out into the open. While they are quietly talking, the club owner, who is Lucia's friend, offers to help them. Lucia has a clever idea. She uses her credit card to pay for drinks, leaving a digital trail. They hope Carrick will follow this trail and fall into their trap. Just as Will and Lucia planned, Gorman shows up at the club. The club owner and his friends quickly recognize him, and a fierce fight breaks out. Gorman is a skilled fighter, but they finally manage to overpower him by using a taser. They take Gorman to the club's basement. They beat him badly and ask him questions. But Gorman is tough and will not talk. Will asks Gorman where the briefcase is and when the exchange will happen. Gorman just laughs and stays silent. Will attacks Gorman brutally and tells the men to hurt him more. When Gorman still says nothing, Will has another idea. He tells Lucia they should let Gorman escape. He will lead them to Carrick. They intentionally leave Gorman alone in the basement, and he manages to untie himself and get away. But Will and Lucia are in another car watching Gorman the whole time. Gorman, being a skilled agent, breaks a car window and gets inside. He starts the car and speeds away. Will and Lucia chase him without Gorman knowing. Gorman drives to an alley where he meets Carrick. He gets into her car. Carrick drives to a parking area. Will and Lucia keep a close watch on them the whole time. In the underground parking lot, Will tells Lucia to stay in the car while he follows them on foot. Will watches from a distance as Carrick talks to the buyers in the dark parking lot. But suddenly, everything becomes chaotic when Zahir and his team arrive. Zahir tells Will to back off and surrender. Will shouts and demands to know where his family is. The noise of their argument reaches Carrick, and she kills the buyers. Chaos breaks out, and all the agents start shooting everywhere. In the middle of the chaos, Gorman sees his chance. He grabs the mysterious briefcase and jumps into a waiting car. Will is determined to get it back, so he chases after him on foot. Will catches up to Gorman and they have a fierce fight over the briefcase. During their struggle, a Secret Service agent shows up and shoots Gorman. Will manages to grab the briefcase and get out of Gorman's car. As Gorman tries to escape, Lucia rams her car into his car, causing a violent crash. Gorman is badly injured. Will runs to Lucia's car and helps her out. He comforts her. Gorman is dying, but he still has not given up. He mocks Will, saying sarcastically that he cannot believe it was Will and Lucia who finally killed him. After that, Gorman dies as Will watches. Suddenly, Lucia warns Will that Carrick is driving toward them. Carrick arrives in her car. She rushes to pick up the abandoned briefcase from the ground, but then she sees Gorman dead in his car. Carrick starts shooting blindly in the direction where she thinks Will is hiding, but she realizes she is short on time and must escape. With Gorman dead nearby, Carrick shouts at Will, calling him an amateur, before speeding away. Will and Lucia start chasing Carrick again. Carrick knows they are following her, and a high-speed chase begins. Carrick tries to get away by driving through a park, but Will is determined to catch her. He gets closer, so Carrick starts shooting at him. Will does not give up, but he backs off for a moment. Carrick thinks she has lost them, but then her car gets stuck in traffic. Will sees her, he drives straight at her, hitting Carrick's car. But Carrick reverses just in time, and Will crashes into a nearby shop. A crowd gathers around the crash. Carrick gets out of her car and starts shooting at Will and also at other people. With a lot of effort, Will and Lucia take control of another car and drive away. Carrick continues to chase them without stopping. Both Will and Carrick refuse to give up and try to crash into each other. Suddenly, their cars collide fiercely, and both cars flip over. Carrick gets out of her car holding the valuable briefcase. She walks toward Will and Lucia, who are struggling to move. In a tense moment, Will tries to reach for his gun, but Carrick makes fun of him. Just as Carrick is about to shoot Will, she is shot herself. We see Zahir and his fellow agents have arrived. Zahir is the one who shot Carrick. Zahir and his agents quickly take the briefcase and make sure it is safe. Zahir then takes Will to see his family. Will asks about his sister Lucia. Zahir tells him that Lucia is being taken to a hospital. On the way, Zahir tells Will that Martin would be proud of him for being so strong. When Will sees his family, he runs to them and removes their restraints. Their reunion is very emotional, with lots of tears and hugs. The next day, Will meets a CIA official. The official gives Will his passport and offers him a safe way to return home. He tells Will that he did very well and should think about joining the CIA as a field agent because he has all the qualities of a good operative. But Will has not decided yet. Before leaving, Will is still curious and asks what was inside the briefcase. The CIA official does not give him a clear answer. Instead, he hints that to find out, Will needs to join the CIA. Will says he needs to see his family and walks away. The CIA official smiles mysteriously. In the final scene, outside Lucia's hospital room, Dara thanks Will for everything. Laurie goes inside to see Lucia. Josh asks Will if he has told Lucia about him. Will tells Josh to go inside and introduce himself to Lucia, because she is Josh's sister too. Josh goes inside and introduces himself to Lucia, as Will watches from the window. And that is the end of the story. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. See you next time.